Hello, everyone. Welcome to Rash's World. Today we have a very special guest. We have Dr. Ron Dulek. How are you doing?
Very good. Very well.
Awesome. So the first question is a bit tough, but then it's gonna kind of get easier as we go along. How would you briefly describe yourself?
Wow. That is a tough question.
I know.
I um I would first describe myself as a professor.
Mhm.
I've been a professor at the University of Alabama for 49 years. I'm still on the faculty and I'm aiming for 50. And so all of my life is about being a professor. The yeah, that would be it. That would be it.
hmm
Okay.
hmm But you're also an author as well, and you have, I think, 8 books.
Yes, correct.
Some of them are related to your field, the elements of business writing. And then there's the odd one, quote unquote, odd one, sitting with elephants, lessons in humility for the from the African bush. And you had me at sitting with elephants, actually. So let's talk about that. So it's kind
Sure.
of a memoir, isn't it?
It's a memoir and a very fond memoir.
Yes.
About almost 20 years ago, yeah, my wife and I was into academic administration for 17 years, and I continued being a professor during that time. And when I stepped aside, I negotiated my contract that I would have my summers free.
hmm
And that seemed really important. I wasn't yet that old. And
hmm
my wife, and I'd promised my wife that, we would get to spend some serious time together. And we did a couple of kind of general trips. And then I said to her, "What do you want to do?" And I had done a visiting professorship at the University of South Africa. And she said, "I like Africa."
hmm
And I said, "Do you want to buy a house?" And she said, "Sure." So I got online and we found this house in a place called Sabi Park, South Africa. It borders Kruger Park, which is the one of the largest nature preserves in all of Africa. And Kruger Park is our backyard.
hmm hmm That's a big jump though. Like I like a place, let's buy a house, right?
Yeah, yeah. In all honesty, we were older. Our children were growing.
hmm
I wouldn't have done this if my children were grown and were self-sufficient.
hmm
And so I think you can take a little more risk as you move to that part of your life. As I guess, I guess I was about 57 or 58 at the time.
hmm hmm
And, it seemed we either buy a condo in Florida or a bush house in South Africa.
Yeah, why not? I mean,
Why not?
all
What
for
the
it.
heck?
Why
Yeah, what
not?
the
Let's
heck?
let's go nuts on this one. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, but
that
it's
was
awesome because what about squeezing the juice? I mean, there's actually another thing that's going on like in the background. Let's talk about that. You mentioned it
that
in your book. Yeah.
that I have been and I still use this, but I tell my students, I encourage them to what I call squeeze the juice.
hmm
And what I mean by that is to get the most out of an experience, whether you're taking a class at a university or traveling. And what I felt was I was telling my students to squeeze the juice, and then coming home every night watching television, reading the newspaper at that time,
Yeah.
and it seemed I felt like a hypocrite.
Yeah. Yeah.
And while my wife and I had traveled a lot, we'd always done it kind of conventionally. So I've actually, not only do I start my classes by talking about living in South Africa now, but I also a number of my students have come to visit, and
hmm
that's really special
That is
when
awesome.
they
That is
travel
really
halfway
cool.
around the world to visit a professor.
Yeah, and you've been to many, many countries, right? So
Yes.
why did South Africa stand out so much? And again, most likely because of the environment, right? And because of the nature.
Yeah.
Mhm,
It would be a combination of things. Parts that most importantly, the environment and the ability to get really, really close to nature.
mhm,
But also in full disclosure, because South Africa is English, I didn't have the language problems that I have in other countries.
mhm,
I work a lot in Tanzania, and while they're most people are fluent in English, not to the same level that there is in South Africa. And one other one, I guess I'd say, at the time, South Africa felt and it still does a little bit. It felt like America in about 1780,
Okay.
that had come out of
Interesting.
apartheid.
Yeah.
When we first started going there, Nelson Mandela was the president, who's kind of like George Washington on steroids. And so
Hmm.
there was this vibrancy to the country that I kind of wanted to participate in.
Awesome. But you did have to learn the language of elephants.
I, I did. I did. You've got very good questions, Arash.
Okay, let's talk about that. Yeah,
Oh,
there's a lot
well,
of I don't usually interact with elephants, but I found it most interesting. And then some stuff again, like never stare at them and never
yes.
run. But
Yeah.
the mock attack, the mock charge, I found that most surprising. So let's talk about all of this.
Well, I'll gladly, the background is that because the house is remote and has no, we use solar power for electricity, but we have it's very unwinding to be there. There's
Mhm.
no internet. It's totally
So
remote.
you are literally in the 18th century,
We literally in
basically.
the 18th
Yeah.
century.
Yeah.
But just because I do have 21st century problems, I negotiate with a local hotel that I stop by there every day to I can check in because if somebody needs me back here, they can't get to me.
Mhm.
So I tell my family and friends that if you need me to send me an email and I check daily. And where I go to check is the place where safari guides take breaks.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and so they were interested in me as this kind of strange elderly man who comes and checks the internet. And I was interested in them because of what they know. And at the house, the elephants kept coming up to the fence. There's a fence in the backyard, and the elephants came up to it. And I started asking the safari guides if I could walk down and be close to them. And they said they would teach me how to approach an elephant.
I see.
And their big emphasis is on humility.
Yeah.
And then, excuse me, not the not staring is because predators stare.
Right.
Lions and leopards will stare at you,
Mhm.
and so other animals feel when you stare at them, they label you as a predator.
Mhm.
And then when you walk toward them, the first thing the elephant will do is he'll put out his ears,
Mhm.
which indicates that he sees you and or she is aware of you. Sometimes they'll dangle their foot,
Mhm.
and then you keep looking down and approaching them very very slowly. And then one other thing you do is you check. There's a gland right beneath their ear, and if there is fluid coming out, then the elephant is in stress and you have to get out of there because it's dangerous.
Mhm.
But if you don't
But
see
that's
the
hard to see, right? Is it hard to
it's
see?
actually more visible than, yeah, I've since seen it. I've seen it on multiple
Okay.
occasions, and the side of their head will get very wet, or the
Oh,
side of their
okay.
face will be very wet. So it
Interesting.
isn't just a small drop.
Mhm.
There's genuine fluid flowing down there.
What do you do in that case? Because you don't
Leave.
run, right?
Don't
Leave
run.
slowly.
Start backing up.
Okay.
Start backing up, and then just kind of as fast walk away.
Okay.
Just don't go any closer. Just don't
Okay.
go any closer.
Hmm.
And then at some point as you come, the elephant will do what they call a mock charge,
Hmm.
which is they will usually pick up their trunk, point their tusks at you, and come straight at you. Now the guides continued to tell me just stand there, and she'll stop. But for 4 years, I mean, when this huge animal is coming at you with these tusks out, every bone in your body says, "Get out of
That's
here."
not your first reaction, right? To stand
Your
still.
first
Yeah.
reaction is run like a little child screaming.
Yeah.
I was always doing it by trees for safety, but
Hmm.
I would always I ran, yeah. And the guides never made fun of me, which was really interesting.
Hmm.
They told me that, they said you'll know when it's okay to run away, to
Hmm.
back away.
Hmm.
But they said, you'll know, they said, you got to bond with a elephant. And when you bond, and they told me I wasn't being humble enough.
Hmm.
And they said, when you bond, and after 4 years or so, I was out one day and I came across an elephant, which is the first step in sitting with them.
Yeah, yeah.
And the elephant did the mock charge, and she had the kindest eyes, and I had
Wow.
no desire, and she stayed with me. She stopped at about 10 or 15 feet away,
Hmm.
and kind of shook her head, like kind of going, and then she looked at me for a little bit, and I kept looking down. I'd glance
Hmm.
up,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then she kind of shook her elephant head and
No
walked off
way.
into the bush and said, you shouldn't,
Yeah.
uh, and then, do you want the rest of the story,
Yeah,
Raj?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. Amazing.
The next day, my wife and I were sitting on the back porch of our house. Well, first, let me tell you that that day I was so energetic. I wanted to run around the moon. I mean, it was,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then the next day we were sitting out at the house, and to our surprise, she came back.
Hmm.
She came back to the fence, and I didn't, and she stood there, and my wife said, are you going to go down there? I went, well, and then she fell asleep. And my wife said, what are you going to do? And I went, yeah, I said, I'm going to go over to the hotel and talk to the safari guides. and, and
Yeah,
so
you don't have phones on you, right? You can't
no,
just
I
call
don't
and
have,
like, going,
we
oh,
don't, the phone
wow.
doesn't, there's no
Okay.
phone.
Right.
So I told my wife, wait here, and I scooted over there, and then they told me, they said that she was giving me a symbol of trust, that she would, they said that when she falls asleep, she's showing she trusts you, and they said you could have gone down and sat with her.
No way. Yeah.
They said you could have gone, and because I was afraid if I went down and sat with her, she'd wake
Yeah.
up, I'd scare
Yeah.
her,
Yeah. Yeah.
and and now that was near the end of that year's visit. We go every year for 2.5 months.
Hmm.
And then the next year, when I thought it was all over, but she came back the next year.
And they recognize you because they have
And
great memory.
she
That's
recognized me,
yeah.
and I sat with her that summer for 10 different occasions.
Wow.
And she actually, and realizing I really am sane, okay, because
Yeah.
you're not going to believe
Yeah.
what she started doing is she would bring young elephants and walk them past me for me to see.
Oh my.
And then and I would, at this point, I was losing contact with sanity, but
Hmm.
feeling really good.
Hmm.
I was trying to talk to her and saying, I don't know
Hmm.
why elephants should speak English, that you have a beautiful family.
Yeah.
And then she came along with one of the younger elephants, and she actually laid down by me. Now there's a fence between us. It's just
Hmm.
a wire fence.
Hmm.
And when she laid down, I took it as a sign, so I laid down with her,
Okay. Wow.
and we were just, and my wife snuck out and took a picture. It was of it, so we actually have pictures of me
Hmm.
lying with the elephants. And again, the guides actually told me on that one, when I told them about it, they said she's too vulnerable. They said we don't. They said you're putting us on. I said no, she really did. And
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and they said because she's so vulnerable when she lies down that she can't protect herself. They said you've really bonded with her, that she was really showing you an immense amount of trust.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it was an awesome experience.
Absolutely. And I love that they go to sleep. I mean, that shows they're safe. They feel
That
safe.
shows
You're
they're
not
safe, because
gonna
otherwise they wouldn't fall asleep.
Yeah, yeah, because then you can attack them, right? And
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
just amazing. But
Yeah.
so generally, do you find elephants playful? Is that like the nature? Because I've heard of people swimming with dolphins, right? And
Yeah.
that's a whole different thing. But
Yeah.
like
I
sitting and spending time with elephants is something this is the first time I'm hearing this.
Okay. I wouldn't say playful. I'd say almost more respectful.
Hmm.
That there's no there's this feeling like I'm really, and I'm really feel close to, like I can almost communicate with them.
Hmm.
That they seem to understand me, and I feel like I understand them.
Hmm.
Um, for the book, I there's a beautiful book written called The Elephant Whisperer,
Hmm.
by yeah, I don't know, you're familiar with the
I've
book?
heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I contacted there's two authors, one who's passed away, and I contacted this man named Graham Spence, who and he it's what that book is about these elephants who were causing trouble, and they were going to cull them. They lived near where I live, and and instead they asked if they could try and socialize them, and they were able to do it. And after the book was published, they owned their own farm. And after the book was published, one of the authors passed away. And there is a rumor, a legend that the elephants came back to the house and were in
Oh my God.
mourning before his wife knew he had died.
Mhm.
And I asked Graham Spence if that was true as we became friends. And he said, yeah, he said, it's totally true. And he said, in fact, they come back every year. And he said, they don't come back to the day he died, but they'll come back that week and still go into mourning because they miss him.
Wow, that's so
And,
amazing. I've
and
heard it of dogs before, but like
yeah,
elephants, yeah,
yeah,
that's amazing.
and various others have shared me various stories of that of elephants
Mhm.
remembering and coming back.
Mhm.
Uh, Now, in the book, the elephant comes back one more time, but then COVID hits. Well, actually, the book tells the other part, and this is the part I didn't share. She she comes back and they break the fence, and she comes back with her. It turns out that I bonded with the matriarch. I didn't know that at the
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And they come back and they break the fence, and she's very nervous. I tried to sit with her, but it didn't feel safe.
Mhm.
And there were two other elephants with her, and so they ran up about 10 meters and they broke another section of fence, and then turned and started coming toward me. They were not charging.
Mhm.
Uh, my initial thought was that maybe she'd touch me.
Mhm.
And then but a park ranger had been killed 2 weeks earlier when she had uh, scared a herd of elephants and they charged. And she ran, the ranger ran and tripped,
Mhm.
and the elephant picked her up and threw her. And unfortunately, she passed away. Not my elephant, there was a different
Mhm.
herd.
Mhm.
But that thought was in my mind
Mhm.
is that
Mhm.
if she picks me up, I can't get away.
Yeah.
Uh, so I ran away from her, and I went up to the house, and it confused her. And then she kind of stayed away for a while. And then the elephants broke the fence for 3 nights in a row after that. And the local authorities who knew I was sitting with the elephants came and informed me that this had to stop because they were causing some damage. They were breaking some pipes in the area. And one night, my wife actually woke me and said, "There's a noise outside." And I went outside, and this elephant was leaning against our house.
Oh,
And
oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
I shouted at her. I said, "Stop that!" And because she could literally push over the
Yeah,
house.
of course.
And then so the local authorities came and they said that they said someone's going to get hurt.
Mhm.
And I understood that. And I said, "What do you want me to do?" And they said, "Nothing. We're going to do it." And they said the options they were considering were bringing in bees because elephants hate bees,
Oh, interesting.
or else capturing my elephant and removing her because she was the matriarch.
Mm.
And they said, but the problem with that is it will break up the herd. And they said so and they'll be very lost without her leadership.
Mm.
And the third option was to electrify the fence, and that's what they did.
Mm.
And I asked, I said, "Is it going to like kill her?" And they said, "No, but she'll feel it." And my wife and I, because we cook outside, we
Mhm.
don't have the capacity to cook in the house,
Mhm.
which is really neat in itself. And we were
Mhm.
cooking, and we heard her coming, and she hit the fence, and she screamed. She let out a scream in pain, and then she walked up to where we were. And elephants communicate in three ways. They trumpet,
Mhm.
they'll gurgle in their stomach, and they communicate through their feet.
Mhm.
And she gurgled, but I don't speak stomach, so I don't know what she was saying. Um, I suspect it was something like, "I gave you the best years of my life, and
Yeah.
how could you do this to me?" And
Yeah. No, that's so
and
sad. That's so moving.
yeah,
I wish they had an app for that. It's like,
yeah,
like
it really,
translating it. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
and then she walked away. The next year she did not come back.
Mm.
The following year she came back, but she wouldn't. She would stay about 50 meters away from the fence. And one time she came back on 3 occasions. And one time I walked down to the fence to get closer to her, and she charged.
Like
And
not a mock charge.
it didn't look
No.
like a.
Okay.
I left. I wasn't going to take the risk,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
because she was too far away to do a mock charge.
Hmm.
When I was describing that to friends who know some things, and I interpreted that as a human,
Hmm.
as being, we're never going to get that close again because I got hurt.
Hmm.
Some of my friends said, she may have thought you were going to touch the fence, and
Oh, I
so she
see.
might have been saving you. And
Yeah.
and I just don't,
Yeah.
again, I don't speak elephant.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
sleep with them, but I don't speak it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's yeah,
and then
amazing.
after that was the year that COVID hit. So
Mm.
I've only seen her one time since then.
Mhm.
And again, when I saw her, she actually had a young baby with her, so I was
Mhm.
pleased about that.
Mhm.
But again,
Mhm.
she stayed far away. I haven't seen her for 2 years now.
Mhm. Mhm.
I haven't, but elephants actually, they have a long a 2 year cycle of when the herd travels, because they're so tough on the environment that they have to move on. They
Oh,
can't
I
just
see.
they can't
Yeah,
live in one place because they'll destroy the environment.
right. Yeah,
So I'm hopeful this year that she'll come back.
yeah.
If she
Nomad.
does, I'll send
Wow.
you an email
Yeah.
and let you know.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I'd like to know. Yeah. And
Yeah.
why elephants? Is that something that when you were younger, like it appealed to you or it just came out of nowhere?
It was just the opportunity came.
Okay.
When we moved to Africa, that wasn't my thought. We
Hmm.
just wanted
Hmm.
the experience of living in the remote bush.
Hmm.
But so it was just an opportunity that arose because the elephants came to the fence.
Hmm. Because I'm thinking of the Grizzly Man and Timothy Treadwell who went,
Oh,
and such a sad story, but he had that close connection with the bears, and it's just
yeah,
amazing how he would actually like stand his ground with this huge
yeah,
bear and it's learn how to like communicate with them,
yeah,
and really had a bond. I
yeah,
felt. And
yeah,
just unfortunately, I think the one that ended up killing him was one that was not
yeah,
known to him, but was a
yeah,
stranger, right?
yeah, yeah.
But then the danger is that too, like, when
Yeah,
you kind of
that's
romanticize it and you think of them as not as animals, as like fellow humans, or
yeah,
then that can happen, or even the accident. They don't mean to kill you. They just want to hug you, but then they crush your bones.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. They cross that line, and
Hmm.
it's a you know, I deliver versions of our chat in various businesses and so
Hmm.
forth, and
Hmm.
I've extrapolated out of that I really believe I use the metaphor of the Robert Frost poem "Fences," that good fences make good neighbors,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
and while Disney would have me, take the trunk in my hand and we'd walk off in the bush and live happily ever after. The
Hmm.
truth is that once those elephants broke the fence and started coming in, even though I was bonded with her, bad things could happen.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I actually use that metaphor. I was giving a presentation to a Volvo, the big auto,
Hmm.
and I
Sure.
and I shared my elephant story, and this man came up and he said, he was the president of a large division, and he said, "You've pointed out to me how I can be better as a president."
Hmm.
And I said, "What?" And he said, your mention of fences. He said, I let my employees get too close to me because I want to be liked, and then
Hmm.
I feel disrespected.
Just like
and
the elephant. Yeah.
just like the elephant,
Yeah.
and so that lesson of the fence is really, really important.
Hmm.
And I carry it now into the classroom, and I tell students that I want to be really close to them, but I am not going to go out drinking with you. There is
Hmm.
a fence. I am an
Yes,
elderly
absolutely.
professor, and you're a young man, young
Hmm.
people,
Hmm.
and and don't cross the fence of respect.
Hmm. Yeah,
And,
exactly. I like it.
yeah,
Fence of respect. That's
yeah,
exactly it. Yes.
it's been a very, very useful metaphor for me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I can see their humility too, because of again dealing with such a majestic creature and a
Oh,
dangerous one too. But then when you show the humility, they perceive it, right? They don't.
yes.
You can't go be brash with them or arrogant, right? They're like,
Ex-
we need
How can you be
humility.
arrogant with something that massive?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
And,
that's
and,
again a
and
learning experience in itself.
yes.
Mhm.
And the world, I honestly believe the world needs more humility.
Yeah. Yeah.
I, I, I think, the world needs to relax, and a little
Mhm.
humility doesn't hurt us at
Mhm.
all.
Mhm.
Um,
And just again dealing with animals and seeing that there's a whole personality behind them. Like I
oh,
mean, we had hamsters and then two different ones, and there's a completely different personality. It's
yes.
like very, very different, and then this unique bond you have with them, and you with
Yeah.
your elephant. It was unique
Yeah.
from all the other elephants.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, you just reminded me, there was one when I was sitting with them on those 10 occasions, there was one elephant, a young adolescent elephant, who I could tell was starting to um, challenge me in some ways. And I was kind of starting to back up.
Mm.
And the matriarch came by and removed him.
Oh
You know,
wow,
so it
the
was,
rebel. Yeah.
it was a little bit, it's every adolescent,
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
I'm going to show you, it's a, and again, I always anthropomorphize. I put
Mhm.
human characteristics in elephants,
Mhm.
and that's both good and dangerous. You got to, they are
But the
wild
bonding
animals.
is real,
The
regardless. The
bonding is
bonding is
real.
real. Yeah.
The bonding
Yeah.
is real. I have no doubt
Mhm.
that she and I were, I would do much for her. The bond
Mhm.
goes both ways, her with me
Mhm.
and
Yes.
me with her. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. But what about some of the other animals like you encountered, and were there any adventures there that you'd like to share with us here?
Sure. Um, there's tons of them. Baboons
My
have broken
goodness.
into our house on 5 different occasions.
What do
And
they want? Like food
they
or
food.
okay.
One of the there's a in living in Africa there you have to learn. You make freshman mistakes,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
one of the mistakes is you can't leave out bananas or oranges because the
Okay.
baboons will do everything possible to get into the house.
Hmm.
And they actually the house is open and has rafters in it, and I have marks on the rafters where the baboons were swinging, and so they leave messes.
Yes, of course.
um, on one occasion, my wife was going to take a nap, and I was going over to the hotel to check the internet, and I forgot to lock the back door, and the
Hmm.
baboons slid it open, and she thought that I'd come home, and she came out and discovered a baboon on top of the refrigerator.
Oh my goodness.
so so the baboons have been, during the night, we cook outside and we surround ourselves with fire, because one, again, learning lesson, that you stay close to the fire and the animals won't bother you.
Okay.
But I surround us with lanterns, and then I cook over a large fire.
Hmm.
But we'll often see hyenas will come up to the edge of our area, and uh, when I when I when I walk into the house with my food, usually like a pork chop, that hyena kind of looks at it and go, no, but they've never bothered me. They've
Okay.
never,
Yeah.
but they're just watching us.
But
They're,
you don't share food with them. I guess
I
that
do
would be a
not.
terrible
Oh no,
idea.
that
Yeah.
would be a terrible idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be a terrible idea. They
Mm.
would To share food with them would be, it would destroy the
That fence of
yeah,
respect. Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
It would cross the fence of respect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would cross
Yeah.
the
Just
fence
like you wouldn't go drinking with your students, right?
yeah, exactly the
Yeah.
same. Yeah,
Do you have a rifle or anything just in
no,
case
I've
for your
nothing,
safety? Wow. And
nothing.
yeah.
Um,
I
Uh,
just think it's amazing, like waking up like having a baboon in your room, you know? It's just like the idea of that is like
it,
mind-boggling, but also amazing. Like,
again, you wouldn't do it if you're young and have a family you're responsible for. But yeah,
and
so
speaking of it, what do your kids say?
the, at first they thought that I was crazy. We were crazy.
Hmm.
But both I have two children, and they both have families, and they both have come to visit. And and now my
Oh, they've
daughter,
come to visit you in South Africa.
they have come to
Oh,
visit us in South
nice.
Africa, and
Yeah,
they are they're bonded with it. They're
nice.
bonded with it. They my daughter and her daughter come now almost every year.
Hmm. Hmm.
I've been told when I pass on not to sell the house, to leave the house to them.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
this is going to be a family tradition now, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you go every year now since
Yes.
then. Yeah.
Yeah. I go usually in mid-May and then stay till early August or something like that. There's sometimes I have to work and I interrupt that, but
Hmm.
usually it's in that scenario.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
That is so
And there
amazing.
is no, yeah, there is, and we
Mhm.
have no electricity, so we have no furnace either.
Okay.
So it usually, and it's the South African winter because we're south of the equator.
Hmm.
So it sometimes it'll get really, really cold and you bundle up.
Hmm. Hmm.
But that's part of the experience too.
Yeah,
It,
no, I mean it's
squeeze the
also
juice.
amazing. Squeeze the juice. I was just thinking of that, and also like I found like people who are like really like intense with like again business professors, leaders, and so on. There's some sort of like escape that you need to have. And there's another one I read who goes on marathons, like who runs all the time. Nicholas
Uh-huh.
Thompson, I think, and he wrote about running and so. But yours, I think, so much more fascinating.
Yeah, I'm glad you like it. Again, I'm very, very pleased that we've done that, and I will keep going for as long as I possibly can.
Hmm.
I will
Hmm.
keep going as long as I possibly can.
That's awesome. And thank you so much for being on Narash's World here, Dr. Ron Dulek. You are an author, business professor, and elephant whisperer. Was
No,
that
no,
one? No,
no,
not
I'm not
yet.
an alto whisperer.
Okay.
No,
But
I sit sitting with elephants. That's all.
elephant sitter, maybe. Yeah.
Elephants.
Your
There,
memoir,
that would be
your
good.
elephant sitter. Your memoir is Sitting with Elephants: Lessons in Humility from the African Bush. Such an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Rush. It's been an honor.